What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Great League Remix once again, and today we're going to be looking at Spiritomb. Now, Spiritomb shares the exact same typing as Sableye, which has seen so much dominance in the Open Great League, so I figured why not Spiritomb in the Great League Remix? The main problem for this Pokemon is that its pacing is pretty poor. It has decent fast moves and charge moves. It's got Sucker Punch, which is a great fast move, and Rock Tomb, which is a great charge move. We've seen it on many Pokemon. The issue for this Pokemon is it doesn't have a good bait move. However, we tried to make it have a bait move, so we actually tried to use it with one of the ghost moves that wasn't Shadow Ball. I forget what it's called at this moment, but you'll see it in a sec. And as you can see down the board, this team works really well. Tinkaton just to beat anything that Spiritomb and Galarian Moltres are weak to. And yeah, it's double dark in the back, so let's see how we do. Shadow Sneak, that's the one. Alright, terrible lead in the first match. We've got a Crocalor, so I'm going to throw one Fairy Wind, defer the Incinerate onto my Spiritomb, and we bait out a Machamp. Perhaps my opponent did not see that we had the sub-ghost typing. I do correctly shield a Rock Slide, so they're not running Stone Edge, which is nice. And now I'm connecting with the Shadow Sneak. This is where having that cheap bait move is actually kind of nice on this Pokemon. You see we have 7-6 pacing, which is a little better. It's not great, but it is slightly improved. And we actually live that, which means we can grab 2 shields from my opponent in this matchup if they want to maintain switch. And they do. So now we have a huge advantage here, and we know they're most likely just running cross chop, so we can take at least one charge move. We do get 1 turn lag, but that is pretty typical at this point in the game. They're going to make it to another. I will live this, and I will still have energy for a charge move coming out. So I'm going to instantly switch into my Moltres, get a 1 Sucker Punch head start, so now whatever is in the back is going to have to take a Brave Bird to the face. What is that Pokemon in the back? It is a Furret. And I am just going to overfarm here because I'm going to let them get to a charge move. I'm going to let them throw this charge move. I'm going to Sucker Punch them into range where I can get my Brave Bird off, and I'm going to throw the Brave Bird right before they get to the Swift. This should be enough to KO from this range. And now that puts pressure on my opponent. I'm able to make it to a super effective Ancient Power, which is nice. And this doesn't quite KO, but we banked a Bulldoze from earlier, so we're able to snipe with the Bulldoze. This is super effective damage, and Tinkaton is a Crocalor counter confirmed. Okay, into the next match, Tentacruel. This has been an awkward lead for both parties because we're both hitting for resisted fast move damage. Of course, we are running Bulldoze for coverage, so we have a super effective charge move instead of 2 resisted charge moves. So that is super nice. Of course, Bulldoze is not a great move, so I am just going to shield this up, expecting my opponent to full send the Scald, and now I'm just going to play out this matchup. I can now land another Bulldoze, and because my opponent is staying in this matchup, I think that Tinkaton has play in the back. So I'm going to catch the next Scald onto my Spiritomb. That does about 50%, but that's okay. We bait out a Beware, which is crazy because this completely walls our moveset. So honestly, my opponent has seen way too many Spiritomb, I guess, because they are hunting for it. We do connect with a Rock Tomb, but they are still able to get to a full Shadow Claw farm down before we are able to get to a second charge move, which is just really rough. It's the pacing on Spiritomb. We come back in with a Tinkaton. We get our 1 turn lag because it's guaranteed. They bait with a Stomp, and then they just throw another charge move immediately. This could be a superpower, but it is just another Stomp for some reason. And then they come in with a Furret, which has all resisted charge moves and fast moves. So I'm feeling pretty bad about letting my Tinkaton get so low, but what we do is we overfarm, catch on a potential Trailblaze, and my opponent did throw it because they wanted to boost their Sucker Punches, which is nice. So we catch that, it's resisted. I am going to overfarm here because I do need to make it to a Brave Bird. And then my only lose con here I see is baiting, so I am going to full send the Brave Bird. Of course, my opponent has a tough call to make here. Do they shield it? They do not. And now we get the full farm down. We also get the farm down of the Beware, and now it's Tentacruel. Can we get the full farm down? We can, and with Tinkaton alive in the back, we were able to take that win. Okay, Tinkaton into Dusknoir. We have two better answers in the back, so I imagine I'm going to get out immediately here, and I do, and we bait out a Togetic. Now, this is rough. However, Togetic's pacing to a Fairy-type charge move is pretty slow. I think it's 7 to the first on the Dazzling Gleam, which means we can actually outpace because they were a little bit slow on the swap. That said, they do full send the Dazzling Gleam, so we're forced to just come back in here with a Tinkaton. We can get a full Fairy Wind farm down, and we can take a resisted charge move here. It is another Dazzling Gleam, but that does absolutely nothing to the bulky Tinkaton. We get a full farm down. And now I'm going to bait as if I'm going to throw the play rough here, but I'm baiting with a Bulldoze. My opponent does shield it, and we get the defense drop, which means we get 2 super effective sucker punches in there for virtually free. And my opponent comes in with a Primeape. They do full send in close combat, which is a really nice play by my opponent. I should have clicked the Brave Bird here, but I do just click the Ancient Power, and this might actually work out in my favor because now I can actually get a full Fairy Wind farm down. I can come out with loads of energy, and at this point my opponent's only play is to try and call a bait, so I'm going to full send a play rough here because I would outpace either way. My opponent does try and call it, understanding that that is their only win con, and they do correctly no shield, but I did full send, making the right play, and we were able to take that win. Okay, Tinkaton into Dragonite. This is the most chef's kiss lead in the world. They come in with a Corsola, and I meet them with a Spiritomb. Now, unfortunately, this is actually a pretty nice safe swap because I expected it to be a Grumpig, which we would do really well into, but Corsola has super effective Moonblast. So I'm going to shield the first. I'm going to go for a Rock Tomb to lower their attack, and now from full HP, I should be able to live a Moonblast. Moonblast obviously is super effective, but their Psycho Cuts are double resisted, which means they did not add up at all, and my opponent had enough of that match, so they just resigned the match. I mean, I would have come out with a Rock Tomb loaded for the Dragonite, so it would have been hard to play out of that one. Tough lead in the next match. We have a Jellicent. Well, it's pretty neutral, but we have 2 better answers in the back, so we're actually going to come in with our Spiritomb. My opponent, thinking that we would be too slow on the pacing, actually throws right before we would make it to a Rock Tomb, which would be a nice play if I was running Shadow Ball, but because I'm running Shadow Sneak, I'm able to grab a shield from my opponent, and at this point, they're staying in this matchup, so even if they bait, I think I can get a full farm down, and they do full send the Shadow Ball. In comes the full farm down. Now we come out loaded with energy. What is in the back that did not want to see Spiritomb? And it's a Scrafty, so a bit of an interesting play for my opponent. Scrafty walls my moveset here, literally everything. So I'm going to connect with a Rock Tomb, and now I'm going to come in with a Moltres. I know I can live 1 Thunder Punch with their attack debuffed here, so I am just going to take that Thunder Punch, and then I'm going to over farm. I'm going to throw the Brave Bird on the CMP tie, so that if they want to get this charge move off, they're going to have to shield, and it is an Alolan Sandslash in the back, so this is going to be really tricky to make it out of. I do just come in with the Spiritomb. I'm able to make it to a Rock Tomb on the CMP tie with a Drill Run potentially here, which is absolutely massive, because this will lower their attack. Are they gonna... No, it's just the Ice Punch, but we actually live it, so we have that Spiritomb available for a catch later if we need, and now it's about who can make it to 2 charge moves first. I can live 1, and we live that at about 50%, and here we are at the back-to-back Bulldozes. Is my opponent at a charge move? That is the question. And they let the first one go because they have no shields. In comes a second, which means they were not quite at a second Drill Run, and because of that, we were actually able to take that win. Tinkaton is the better steel. Let's go. Bulldoze, hell yeah. Togetic, this is like one of the best leads imaginable, and they have literally no charge moves for us, so the fact that they're staying in this matchup is absolutely ridiculous to me. Literally everything that the Togetic can learn, I believe, is resisted here, so I'm not sure what they're doing. They eventually get out into a Dugong, and now I could have gone for a Play Rough, but I'm just going to connect with a Bulldoze because I want to try and fish for that defense lowering so that 1 Rock Tomb would KO, but we don't quite get it, which is okay, because we can take an Icy Wind no problem, and now we can connect with a Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is super effective damage on the ice typing of the Dugong, and they do let that through, which means I can definitely just let the Icy Wind back through as well. And then it's who can get the farm down first. Sucker Punch versus Ice Shard. My opponent does not want to give that up. They have loads of energy on the Togetic, so they snipe at the Togetic, but I'm fine with letting that go, because all they've done is trapped their Togetic into a matchup against Tinkaton once again. I do get one turn lag there, but in a matchup like this, it's not going to matter. I am going to throw my charge move right away, though, because at this point, the Tinkaton is getting pretty low, and I have a feeling my opponent is ABA weak to it. What do we see in the back? It is a Deoxys, and we have another fantastic answer in Galarian Moltres. My opponent can go for a Thunderbolt, go for a Rock Slide, either one. I am going to shield this up. They do try and come in with a Dugong, but they're not close to a move there, so I'm not really sure what my opponent was going for, and they do just resign the match. Okay, Dugong into Tinkaton. How are we going to play this one out? We are going to overfarm here. We're going to go for the play rough. We're not baiting here. Full setting it here. Is my opponent going to shield, or are they going to let it go? They let it go, and then they throw their charge move right away. I'm going to shield this up because I'm expecting a drill run, but my opponent baits, which is pretty crazy because they did let that first charge move go, so I totally didn't expect them to bait with an Icy Wind. That is a really nice play by my opponent, and then they come in with an Ariados, which is a really awkward Pokemon because even though Poison Sting is resisted on my Spiritomb, they have neutral lunges and their pacing is just way better. Whereas in this matchup here, if I stay with my Tinkaton, every single charge move and fast move that Ariados knows is resisted. So I'm just going to stay in this matchup. I'm going to play it out. I'm just going to spam Bulldozes. You can see that their charge moves, even though they're buffing it with Trailblaze, are doing absolutely nothing to the bulky Tinkaton. And we are able to connect with another Bulldoze. This one actually gets the defense lower, which is nice. We can still live another Trailblaze, which is huge, because now we can just connect with a Bulldoze. Is my opponent going to let this go? They do, and now I'm instantly switching into my Spiritomb. They are going to get off a charge move. This is a double boosted lunge, which does huge damage to the Spiritomb here, and they have an Obstagoon in the back, so this is going to be a very difficult matchup to play out of. I do connect with the Rock Tomb. Can they get the full farm down? It looks like they might have been able to, but my opponent was not willing to commit to it. They do throw the Night Slash, maybe fishing for a boost. They do not get it. In comes Galarian Moltres. All we have to do at this point is basically get a farm down because we need back-to-back moves for that Dugong on the lead. The Dugong was pretty low. We pretty much put it in rock ancient power range, so we're going to try and fish for this boost, and we do not get it. So now I'm going to go for a catch onto my Tinkaton. We get the Icy Wind catch, which is huge because now our attack is not lowered on our Moltres, and we do not take that super effective damage. Can we get the full farm down? Not quite, but they have no shield remaining, so now we can connect with the Ancient Power, and now it's a race. Who can win this race? Is it Galarian Moltres? Is it the Obstagoon? It's Galarian Moltres, and we are able to get to an Ancient Power before my opponent makes it to a Cross Chop because of that terrible pacing on counter now, and we get a totally wasteful boost at the end there, but we are able to grab that win. Mirror lead in the next match. Is my opponent on Heavy Slam or are they on Bulldoze? That can pretty much make this matchup. And seeing as that's a CMP tie and seeing as we lose it with that fantastic attack stat that we have, my opponent is running Bulldoze. We are going to connect back with a Bulldoze. He gets the defense drop. We also get the defense drop, which is quite nice. We are going to lose CMP once again. I'm just going to continue to play out this matchup until I need to catch out of it, which looks like it's going to be on the next Bulldoze. So a next Bulldoze will be enough to KO, but my opponent is forced to throw their energy because otherwise I could just click the move and then I would take switch instead. So they do connect with a Bulldoze. That does pretty much nothing. And then they come in with a Furret. Now Furret obviously has resisted Swifts here, but a Trailblaze is neutral, and this probably won't quite KO, which is nice. Actually leaves us just barely at 1 HP, which means we can now connect with the Rock Tomb, which is nice. This will do some valuable chip damage, but we have to just basically fully farm down this Furret. I am going to shield this up because they're at neutral damage. They boosted their attack, and then I just re-lowered it. And I want Moltres to have a fighting chance against this Pokemon in the back. What is this Pokemon in the back? It is a Swampert, and they try and go for a catch onto their Tinkaton, which was a huge mistake because, yes, Fairy Winds are super effective, but they only make it to a Bulldoze, which is double resisted. They do get the defense drop, so now I see only one lose condition, and that's baiting. So I'm full sending the Brave Bird. My opponent does correctly shield that. I go for a catch on what would be a CMP tie with my second. and I don't quite get it, but my opponent is forced to throw because I would make it to a charge move, and now once again it's a race, and I do not want to bait because if my opponent calls the bait, then I just instantly lose the game on the spot. They need to make it to back-to-back hydros before I make it to another Brave Bird, and they're not able to get there, which is absolutely massive. Galarian Moltres with 3 Brave Birds to sweep this endgame. Okay, into the next match. I believe this is the second to last battle of the video. We've got another Togetic, so great lead. In comes a Dusknoir safe switch. So finally our team finding a target in this meta. This is the kind of team we were like designed to try and hunt. And we weren't able to find it anywhere, but fortunately we do finally find it. We get the full farm down without having to use any shields. We come out with a Rock Tomb loaded for the Togetic, which is absolutely massive, because now even if they wanted to go for resisted charge moves, and they shield, which is insane because they know they're stuck in a terrible matchup. So very weird shield for my opponent, because now I come in with Tinkaton, they're going to bank that energy, come in with a Diggersby, but now they're down shields, and Fire Punch is just, it's non-stab, it's not a great move, and my opponent, after seeing that abysmal damage, will just resign the match. Into the potentially final match, or second final match of the video, we've got a Corsola on the lead, 2 better answers in the back, so switching into our Spiritomb, and once again we bait out a Togetic, so this is pretty nice because we have super effective coverage. Rock Tomb does connect, but it is going to be hard to farm this Pokemon down. However, these Sucker Punches, they're resisted, but they're adding up, and now I see a potential win con. So if they full send the Dazzling Gleam, they will be only able to make it to 1 more charge move. So I'm going to grab a shield back with the Shadow Sneak, I'm going to double shield, and I'm going to Sucker Punch down a Fairy type, which is absolutely crazy because now we flip switch, they come in with a Corviknight, so now I'm able to outpace, make it to a Rock Tomb, and now these sand attacks, they don't do any damage anyways, but now look how little damage they're doing. They're just not adding up. That forces my opponent to throw their energy. Their energy is debuffed here, but it is enough to KO. Sand attack is resisted on the Moltres, so I'm just going to come in with Moltres. I'm going to get a Sucker Punch farm down, come out with a huge energy lead. I can take any one charge move here because they are debuffed. I'd be able to take one either way, but we are able to get a huge Sucker Punch farm down, which is absolutely massive. They come back with the Corsola. I'm baiting with an Ancient Power here. This is risky, but I feel like I need it to work, and it does. And now I go for a a Power Gem catch onto my Tinkaton. I wasn't successful, but my opponent is still forced to throw energy here because they don't have a great way of removing the Tinkaton from the field of play. So now I'm able to go for a Play Rough that connects, and that does pretty big damage. My opponent is going to have to throw here, or else I'm going to outpace. Maybe they were banking on the fact that I was running Heavy Slam, but I am not. So Bulldoze connects. We're able to Fairy Wind farm down the Togetic, and we're able to take that win. Oh no, well, let me pause. There we go. Yeah, so that is Tinkaton, Spiritomb, and Moltres, a double Sucker Punch user with the ability to either neutralize the fighting type coverage or just completely resist it. So I think both Spiritomb and Moltres are probably some of the best Sucker Punch users in this meta for that reason. And then Tinkaton as a fairy type beats other fairies because it has Bulldoze for itself, and it is a steel type, so it's going to beat all the other fairies like Togetic, for example. So this core is obviously super strong. I will say this team I hovered around 2,500 with still didn't really climb. I've got a team coming probably tomorrow where I climbed about 250 elo with, so definitely keep a lookout for that team. I'll give you a quick hint if you've stayed this long to the end of the video, and that hint is Disarming Voice. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, this team was super strong, so if you want to give it a try, I highly recommend it. That being said, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.